This is Andy Purewal, Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by former world title challenger and British champion Callum Johnson. Callum, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I'm coping well. I'm coping well. I'm quite enjoying this quarantine, if I'm honest.
I was going to say, obviously, we had a brief chat off on the phone earlier, and you mentioned that for yourself, quarantine wasn't too bad because of where you live and that. Just talk to me about how you've been kind of occupying your time, or what you've been doing to occupy your time.
To be honest, where I live in the middle of fields and around marshlands and things like that. So I'm lucky, and I've just been going out with the kids, taking the dogs for walks, going to the marsh, going on bike rides, and just pretty much that's it, really. And training as well, because I've converted my garage into a gym. So I'm lucky there that I've got a gym to train in, and I'm training twice a day, and I'm enjoying life. It's not ideal, but I'm making the best of it, and I'm enjoying it.
What have you been doing to try and occupy your time away from having the chill time with your family? Anything maybe on a funny perspective? Anything that's kind of been amusing for yourself?
I've learnt that my missus can cook. I've learnt she cooks most nights, and I never thought she did. But I think she always told me she cooked, and I never believed her. But now I'm starting to believe her. It's not bad either. I'm enjoying that.
So you're looking around there. Where is she?
I'm checking to see her face, giving them she can hear me, giving them evil looks. But she's she's looking after me. To be honest, I'm using it. It's like an intense training camp kind of thing. I'm just training, eating well, living well, sleeping well, and doing things with the kids and things like that. So it's quite nice. It's just, in a strange way, it's kind of enjoyable and nice.
What's it like from a training perspective? How are you managing the amount and the workload that you're having to give yourself, knowing nobody really knows how long we'll all be in lockdown for, or how long this will go on? So how are you trying to manage your workload?
I've changed it a little bit. I'm doing longer stuff. I'm doing some more endurance stuff, and I'm doing a lot of strength work, strength circuits and things like that. So not so much a lot of boxing, punching stuff. But I've been doing a few Facebook Live sessions as well to try and motivate a few people, get people involved, and not only that keeps me kind of company as well. It feels like I'm not training on my own, and I'm not isolated on my own. So people's there with me, and a few people are joining in, or they say they're joining in, whether they are or not, I don't know. But no, as I said, I'm enjoying it, and I'm just staying as focused and as positive as possible. So when we are out of lockdown, I'm in a good place where I can crack on, get back up to Manchester, training with Joe, and so we're ready.
What conversations are you having with Joe with regards to how much training you should be doing, and what maybe is he helping you with what food you should all be eating, how you should be balancing life? What conversations are you having?
Obviously, I speak to Scott, obviously the nutritionist, about food. But like I say, we know what we need to do anyway in terms of that. It's just the fact of knowing what to do and actually doing it are two different things at times, aren't they? But I've spoken to Joe a few times, and again, not massively about training, just see how he is and for just how you are and things like that. But like I say, just keep ticking over, keep doing long runs, long cycles. Keep working on things, keep working on your strength, and so you've got a real good base to go into camp again.
Now, you was obviously on the verge of facing Igor Mikhalkin for the European title. Where did kind of everything get left with that? What was your understanding when it was supposed to happen?
It got officially announced for May the 2nd. It was officially announced May the 2nd on the Dillian White card. But obviously it's been postponed now. It looks like it's been postponed till July the 4th. So by the looks of it, it's the same opponent, same venue, just a different date 2 months later, which, it's not ideal, but it's something that everybody's kind of having to deal with, and everybody's got to deal with it. It's as simple as that, and I'm dealing with it to the best I can, and I'm making the most of the time that I've got, and to make myself fitter and stronger for when that date comes.
Obviously, you haven't had many fights over the past few years as you've built yourself back up after your time away from the sport. Are you feeling more pressure now, and especially on the back of what's going on at the minute, to kind of push yourself up not necessarily up the levels, but into bigger fights a bit quicker to make up for lost time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always wanting the biggest fights. I mean, it doesn't go a lot bigger than European title. Obviously, a world title is the only fight really bigger than that. So, you know, I've got the big fight there for me. The time I've had away, I'm not bothered as such because obviously I am bothered. I mean, I wish I'd never had to have had it, but I've done it before a couple of times, and you know, it's never bothered me. And I feel as though, although my age, I'm 34. I'm fresh. I'm very fresh. My numbers, my training, my strength, and everything else is better than it's ever been. So I'm in a physically better place than I've ever been in my life. And my times and my numbers and things like that show me that. So, and I feel fresh. I feel still like I'm 25. I've got no miles on the clock, so I feel I've got a good 2 or 3 years in me at least, at the very least. So I'm not really that worried, and I do think the big fights will come, and I do think I'll get that world title shot again.
Before we do come on to that, what do you make of McCalkin? Whilst we just briefly, touching on it, what have you kind of studied on him since everything was talked about or announced those months back?
He's a good fighter. You know, obviously he's a southpaw, so that poses problems. He's a Russian, so he's obviously tough. I've watched him a few times, little bits. He's not the most powerful, which is it's unusual for a Russian not to be the most powerful, but I'm sure he can punch enough to hurt you. Don't so you know, I'm not taking that for granted, but you know, he looks a skilled fighter. He likes to put the pressure on as well, and he looks like he can box a bit. So I mean, I'm expecting a tough fight, and I'm expecting a real good fighter in front of me, which he is. So, and I'll be preparing the best I can, and as I am doing still in isolation. So again, I don't really think too much about the opponent until it's kind of a week 2 before. You know, when you've really got to get it in your head what you're up against and what you've got to do and things like that. So, but I don't think too much about him, if I'm honest.
I mean, provided the bout with McCalkin does go ahead and you are successful in it, what kind of plan or what kind of vision have Eddie or Joe put in front of you with regards to mapping out another world title opportunity?
Well, the Buatsi fights keeps getting mentioned a lot. Eddie keeps mentioning that a lot. So I think that's a fight that's definitely going to happen. Whether it happens at the end of this year or early next year, we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, for me, I've got one thing on my mind, and that's a European, and I can't really think about anything else until that's gone, because if I don't win that, you know, it upsets all the plans anyway. So I've got to concentrate on that and that only. But the big fight with Buatsi, I think will happen, and it's a fight that I want to happen, and it's a fight I think I'll win, and it's a massive fight for British boxing in general, because I think everybody in Britain would like to see that fight.
Let's just talk about some of those potential fights for you, but other fights that could happen in your division amongst others. And starting off with Buatsi, there was a lot of talk a matter of a few months ago that he was on the verge of a world title fight of his own. What are your thoughts on him and his career so far? Do you feel he's ready to step into some type of world title fight?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, if it was going to be against the Chinese fella, what it was looking like, then yeah, I think he's ready for that fight. If it was against Beterbiev, I don't think he'd beat Beterbiev, no. But, you know, it's not for me to say what he's ready for and what he's not ready for, because I don't see him train. I don't see, you know, to be honest with you, I've not really ever seen him box as a pro. I've seen little clips and that. But he's obviously a good fighter. You don't win medals at the Olympics if you're not. And he's doing everything he's asked to do as a pro. Is he being overhyped? You know, only time will tell. Only time will tell. So
On Beterbiev, as you mentioned him, and we speak about him there, Dmitry Bivol has come out and said to Eddie he'd love that fight next. It would be a 3-belt unification fight. Who do you think would be successful if Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev were to face each other?
Beterbiev, I believe he's the best in the division. I believe he beats everybody in the division. I believe on my day I could actually win that fight. It takes some doing though, but he's the best in the division. There's no doubt in that. There's no arguing in that, not in my view anyway. And you know, Vojtic, however you pronounce his name, everybody thought he was going to win that fight, and he was a favourite. And I said to everybody, I think Beterbiev will stop him, and he did. I just think the man's he's a little bit of a freak of nature, to be fair.
Bivol's also come out and he said that he'd be willing to drop down to 168 and face Canelo. How do you think Bivol would get on against Canelo at 168?
I think great fight, great fight. I think Canelo's unbelievable. But you know, Bivol has campaigned at light heavyweight. I know he come up and beat Kovalev, but I think Kovalev was shot, if I'm honest. Great fight, 50-50 fight. I wouldn't like to pick a winner, if I'm honest. But if I had to go, I'd probably go Canelo, because how can you back against him? But it's definitely a fight would be very interesting.
I mean, on Canelo himself, obviously your campmate Callum Smith was one of two names being mentioned to face him, the other being Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders the fight was there to be announced up until everything was obviously postponed due to isolation and lockdown and with what's going on. What conversations have you had with Callum Smith, if any, about the fact that Billy Joe was on the verge of having the bout announced with Canelo?
To be honest, I've not really had a conversation about that with anybody, if I'm honest. But like I said, the last time I was in the gym and speaking about that, obviously the conversation was it's looking like Billy Joe's getting the fight. And that's pretty much the last conversation I had with anybody about it. But then obviously everything got postponed, and then obviously there's been the thing with Billy Joe, you know, with his license and everything else. He's having problems again with that. So I don't know what's happening, but you know, Callum might get the fight again, and again, that's a fight that it's a tough fight. I mean, how can you back against Canelo? But you know, he's not, for me, he's not a super middleweight, light heavyweight. He's just a big, strong middleweight. Callum Smith's a massive super middle, so you've got to give Callum Smith a good chance in that fight. Would he go in as favourite? No, I don't think he would. But has he got a good chance to win the fight? 100%.
Obviously, as you mentioned there, Billy Joe has had his licence suspended, but depending on how that all works out in the months to come, if he was to still face Canelo, which he may not, because I have heard some rumours about Canelo wanting to face Golovkin in September, so you don't know if maybe he'd get out of a Billy Joe fight. But if Billy Joe was to still have it, how do you think he would fare against Canelo?
The same thing again. Billy Joe's a great fighter. His skills, he's got skills to burn, and you know he's not the biggest and strongest of super middleweights himself. You know, obviously he's come up from middleweight. Has Billy Joe got the skills to cause Canelo problems? Yeah, 100%. Could he sustain it for the full 12? We don't know. Again, same scenario. You got to favour Canelo because you can't back against him. But could Billy Joe cause him problems and upset him? Yeah, of course he could. Billy Joe's his class. He's class with his skills.
On Callum, obviously, you never know. He may still get that Canelo fight on what's going on at the minute. But a name which keeps getting mentioned is Danny Jacobs. How do you think Callum versus Danny Jacobs would play out?
I think he beats Danny Jacobs. I think he'd be too big. Danny Jacobs, again, got good skills and everything else. But I think Callum would beat Danny Jacobs. Tough fight, don't get me wrong, interesting fight. But yeah, I'd be putting my money with Callum on that one. But again, you never know, do you? That's the thing with boxing. These top-level fights and top-level fighters, you really don't know on the night. It depends who performs on the night, who gets it right on the night, gets the tactics right, and that's what a lot of it plays down to sometimes.
And then another man who was due to fight on the week of which everything got postponed, or everything started to be postponed and cancelled, fighting in the same division as yourself, Hosea Burton, your fellow campmate. How gutted was you for him that the Golden Contract tournament got pulled a matter of days away from the semi-finals taking place?
He was on his way down to London the day it got called off. The day it got cancelled, he was obviously in the group text. I think he was halfway to London and got a text come through saying it's been postponed. It was like quite gutting, really, for me, for him. So I can't imagine what he felt like. But I mean, again, like I said to him, it's, you know, just got to keep your head on it, and it's only like postponing the inevitable. I think Jose's going to win that tournament hands down. I can't see anybody beating him. So he's going to win it, but a few months later. So he's just got to keep focused and keep your mind on that end goal.
Before I do let you go, I just want to get your thoughts as well on the heavyweight division and the landscape there. Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev was announced before recently being announced as being postponed. What are your thoughts on the fight? Provides battle goes ahead as well when boxing resumes.
Yeah, you got to fancy Joshua against him. to be honest, you got to fancy Joshua against any heavyweight in the world, in my opinion, apart from Fury. I mean, I think Fury's head and shoulders above them all. But like you say, it's a fight. Again, all this postponement and everything else, as bad as it is and as kind of frustrating as it is, it's only postponed for 2 or 3 months. So it will happen. Everything will happen for everybody. Again, it's just kind of keeping right. And somebody like Anthony Joshua, he's in a better position than most, because he's not got to worry about where his next couple of quid's coming from. So he's in a position where he can isolate for as long as he needs to, and then he's not got to worry about paying bills or anything like that, because he's got all the money in the world. So he's in a lucky position. But again, it'll all come for everybody.
One fight which I did want to touch on, which would have happened down towards super middle. Joe Calzaghe and Calzaghe-Froch have had a few back and forths recently over social media and on various podcasts, and in Joe's case over Talk Sport. Have you seen any of their little interactions or anything?
To be honest with you, mate, I don't really follow anybody on social media, especially on Twitter. I don't go on Twitter at all now, to be honest, because it's just full of trolls, isn't it? It's just full of horrible people and like a lot of negative stuff. So I don't really follow that much social media. I post a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm non-stop posting. I must post about 30 photos a day on Instagram. A lot. I don't really follow it, but I just sort of kind of post my own stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I don't see what's going on in the world of boxing or anything. I don't really know what's happening outside of my 4 walls. And that's pretty much how it is.
Even though you don't know what's happened, say prime Joe Calzaghe and prime Calzaghe-Froch, who do you think would have won?
You can't bet against Calzaghe, can you? Prime Calzaghe, he's never been beat, so there's a reason for that. So you'd have to go with Calzaghe. As tough as Calzaghe-Froch is, and as good as Calzaghe-Froch is, I mean, you can't go against Calzaghe. So I've got to go with Calzaghe.
Well, Callum, before I do let you go, I just got to mention it. I can see you've followed the trend and you've shaved off your hair as well, and you've got.
I know. Well, it was getting too long, and it was a case of either letting it get longer and scruffy, or just shave it off. And I shaved it off, and I shaved my lads off the next day as well. He wasn't that impressed. It cost me £100 to keep him quiet. After halfway through it, he was kicking off, so I had to give him £100 to shut him up and let me finish it off.
Well, we've gone for the opposite ends there.
That sweetened him up.
We've gone for the opposite end of the scale there, because I've obviously, as you can see, decided to grow everything out as long as I possibly can.
Well, I think you should get it off, if I'm honest.
We'll have to see. I might have to if it goes on for much longer.
I think you should get it off. It's easier.
Callum, obviously, before I do let you go, just a final word. What would you like to say to everybody who does tune in to watch our interview today?
Just hope everyone's keeping well, keeping safe, and I hope everyone listens to the instructions that we all need to stick to, because I think the longer we keep ourselves in and the longer we keep ourselves isolated, the quicker, everything will get back to normal. And I know it's tough for some people, and some people are luckier than others, where they're situated. And it's easy for me to stay in because I'm surrounded by fields and I can go out with my dog, no problem, and things like that. But I think everyone just needs to try and do the best they can to help the situation, and I hope everyone stays safe.
It's well put, and I'll leave it there now for you to enjoy the rest of your day. It's always been a pleasure to catch up with you, and I'll hopefully see you in person in the near future. Thanks for speaking to Boxing Social.
I hope so. Take it easy, mate. Look after yourself.